Hello, my name is Jessica. Thank you for joining me today. So in our practice today, we're going to work on some fundamentals, some basics to help us strengthen the back body, power up the legs, and hopefully open up the hips. So with that being said, you might want to have two blocks, a blanket, as well as a strap handy. Cool. And once we do that, we're going to start by planting our blocks to either side of our mat and then coming off of your blanket. This is one of my favorite things to do. It's kind of not so much fun, but you'll feel better after. So you'll start with your blanket. Mine is a quarter or folded 4 times, so it's in a quarter of its original size. And then we'll start for today by just taking the fringe side and neatly, compactly rolling that towards the others. And so this is one of those things that I often will observe students rush through. You want to make sure that you're actually creating density in the blanket because it'll help with this next thing. So from here, forehead comes to the floor, your knees are right underneath you, and you'll tuck that blanket as close to the backs of your knees as possible, and then start to press your spine up. And the blocks are here in case you're like, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure very early into practice. And if so, the blocks are here, and leaning forward gives you a very different sensation than sitting more upright, so you choose what works for you. And then you might notice if you want to stay in complete stillness or simply start to shift your weight a little right to left. And no matter what's going on for you, I'd like to invite you to breathe. Notice where the breath is. To notice where any sensations happen to be present in the body, and if you're making a narrative up about them. And if you are, no worries. I have days where I'm like, oof, I haven't done this in a while, and that's a narrative. I feel very much like Christina Sell right now talking to you as she talks to the cameras when you take a class with her, and so it's interesting. In any case, we'll take a pause and you'll take a quarter turn of that blanket. So it's gone from the backs of the knees to now it's in the middle of the calf, and it's right where the gastrocnemius and the soleus meet, so that bulbous part of your leg. And you'll, again, maybe stay in stillness, maybe shift a little right to left. And as you go one side, I notice that when I go to my right, I like to shimmy a little bit because it just digs the blanket in there and it gives me a different sensation. And then you might do that on the other side too. And then you'll go ahead and come to stillness once again. Take a final quarter turn of that blanket, drawing it right up against the backs of your Achilles. And for this one, you might shift a little right to left. You might not. You might stay completely in stillness, and that's totally fine. And we'll just take 2 or 3 more breath cycles here. And then very gently, you'll come out, blanket roll, can go over to one of your sides. And then just extend your right leg back, tuck the toes under, and you'll pulse a little forward and back. And it's pretty early when I'm recording this, so my pops and creaks are happening in my ankle. You might be experiencing something similar, completely different. No worries either way. And then switch sides, extend your left foot back, tuck the toes under, and pulse a little forward and back. Awesome. And then from there, you'll go ahead and come to stillness. And for today, we're going to take just a minor toe tuck. So you'll tuck both sets of toes under, making sure the pinky toe hasn't escaped, and just lightly push them back towards your heels. And with your feet in this orientation, you'll start to feel sensation across the plantar fascia of the foot, so the bottom part of the foot. And we're just going to pause and you're going to breathe. And you'll notice that here, because we haven't come completely upright, you can do a whole bunch of things. You might notice that you want to lift your shoulders up or your shoulders down. You might want to let your head hang or lift it. But you'll just stay and you'll breathe. And then gently shift your weight forward, extend the tops of the feet to the floor, little pitter patters of the toes onto the feet, or rather, pitter patters of the toes onto the floor. And then we'll take a small small, short navicular stretch. So widen your knees outside of your hips. Take your left foot towards your right foot. Lift your right foot up. Drag your right foot across the sole of your left foot. And then you'll pause and press back, pressing the top of your right foot into the sole of your left foot. And this is another one of those places where you might want blocks. Some of you, or you rather, will stay right there. Or you might lift your right knee up, push your right knee down, and just observe and notice, whoa, what happens as you move that right navicular bone into the arch of your left foot. And for me, this is again one that I haven't done in a while, so I'm like, oh, that feels fun. And then we'll come forward and we'll switch sides. So widen your knees outside of your hips. Take your right foot towards your left foot. Lift your left foot up. Drag that left foot onto the top of your right foot, just so you know where it is. And then you're going to press back, finding a point of stillness. This side is so much more intense than the other. And again, you have your sides. Yours might be easier on one side, might be less so on the other. Really depends upon where you've placed that navicular bone. Cool. And then we'll go ahead and come forward and release your feet to the floor. Now walk your knees so they're about hip distance apart, and then shift your pelvis back and stand up. Grab one of your blocks, well, stand on your shins. Stand up and grab one of your blocks and put it between your thigh bones. Now, depending upon how your knees feel here, you might extend the toes long, you might keep the toes tucked under. It's totally up to you. The next thing that we're going to do is grab our second block. So first things first, in this position, notice that you can lightly hug into that block. Your inner thighs will start to spin back, and then you're going to want to curl your tailbone down towards the block, and you'll feel a little bit of tone and lift into the abdomen. From here, keep all that engagement in the leg. Inner thighs back, tailbone lengthens down, pubic bone scoops up, and you're going to bring your block to your chest. Now, you're going to lightly push your block into your sternum, lift your sternum into your block, keep lengthening your tailbone back, or rather down as your inner thighs spiral back, and then see if you can soften across your shoulder blades. Awesome sauce. We're going to use all that in a minute. Lower the block down, hug the block, or one block down, hug the block between your legs. Send your inner thighs down, or rather inner thighs back, tailbone down, words this morning, and then extend your arms alongside your ears. From here, start to radiate your palms forward. So you have a slight external rotation coming from the upper arm bone, your humerus, and then you'll start to reach your arms forward. And once your arms are about parallel to the floor, shoulder height, hug that block again, lengthen the tailbone down, draw your front ribs back and lift up through the sternum. See if you can keep that. Then you might turn your palms to face each other. You might keep them as they are, but you'll start to reach your arms forward and up on a diagonal. Tailbone lengthens down, pubic bone lift, squeeze your block, sternum lifts. Oh, buddy, that suddenly became more challenging to breathe. And you'll just take a few moments here. Now lengthen down through the tailbone by hugging block first. Lengthen tailbone down. Reach up through the sternum, wrap the shoulder blades around your back. And on your next exhale, hands come through heart center. Oh, that was a lot. Okay, release your hands alongside your hips. Now this is one that you might want your strap. And if you are going to take your strap or use your strap, you will unwind your strap and then you'll make a loop. So tail goes through both loops, goes over the first one and under the second, and you'll make something that's about, well, as wide as your shoulders. From here, you'll slip your hands into the strap and draw it back behind you. And I encourage you to keep the loop buckle part over to one elbow, more so in the middle. It doesn't really matter so much here, but it will in the next shape. So once you're here, all the same position. So hug into your block, yay. Lengthen your tailbone down, whoa. Scoop pubic bone to belly button, pull your front ribs back, and then start to invite the shoulder blades onto your back body. Now, from here, you notice that my elbows are a little bent. See if you can bend your elbows just a little bit, and then slide the shoulder blades down the back. Start to straighten out through your arms. Great. Now start to turn your palms towards the floor, and now push out lightly into the strap as you reach out through your pinky fingers. Continue hugging your block, lengthen your tailbone down, and see if you can reach your heart and sternum up. One more breath cycle here. Reach out through the pinky fingers. Hug lightly into the block. Front ribs back. Shoulder blades onto back. Awesome sauce. All right, we're done with that. Go ahead and release your strap and make your way forward, releasing your block. Now, once you're done with that, both blocks probably would be helpful at the top of your space. So you'll go ahead and do that. And then you'll lift yourself up to a minor downward facing dog, and you'll just notice what happens here. So we did all that stuff already on your shoulders, and see if you can find that. So push down through the L shape with your hands. Wrap your shoulder blades around your back. Push from your shoulders into your hands, lift your hips high. Imagine you're hugging a block in between your legs, sending your thighs back, and then curl your tailbone up lightly to root down into your heels. All right, all that stuff came together very quickly. Awesome sauce. Next, in breath, go ahead and gaze to the top of your space. As you exhale, bend your knees and step or float to your hands. Awesome sauce. Once you get here, you might want to plant a block once again in between your inner upper thighs on whatever setting works for you. So maybe it's a first setting, maybe it's a second. And then we'll just take a moment to pause here. Push down into the big toe, push down into the pinky toe, the inner and the outer edges of your heel. And then notice if you can shift your weight forward just a little bit so your thighs and legs and shins and all those things are perpendicular to the floor versus being on a slight angle. And for some of us, that might mean that you have to bend the knees a little bit, drawing the tops of the shin bone forward, top of or bottom of the thigh bone back. And then from here, you might grab opposite elbow. You might hug your block to make sure you're not hyperextending through the legs too much, or at all rather. And you'll just take a moment to breathe and to settle. Nice job. Gently release your hands down to the floor. Inhale, halfway lift. Pull your heart forward as you either push your fingertips into your shins and your shins into your fingers, or you curl your fingers into the mat. Nice job. And then exhale, fold all the way in. And you've got 3 more of those on your own. So big inhalation, heart unfurls forward. Pubic bone reaches back. Exhale, scoop the navel, fold all the way in. And 2 more times. Inhale, broaden the shoulder blades onto the back, collarbones wide. And exhale, fold it. And last time. Inhale, heart and sternum reaches forward, lightly hug your block. And exhale, fold it. This will be your transition up to stand. So inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, bend your knees just a little bit. Hug your block a lot. Draw your right hand to your hip. Draw your left hand to your hip. Draw your shoulder blades onto your back. Now, lengthen your pubic bone back. Reach your sternum forward, crown forward. And on your next exhale, scoop the belly to the spine. Push down into your feet. Inhale, come up through vertical. And then exhale, release your hands alongside your hips. Okay, let's try all that thing that we did with the strap block thing again without the black block strap thing. Okay, so actually this one you won't need your strap. So grab your strap. You're gonna put your strap back onto your arms. And this is where it's important to not have it in the middle of your face. And you want it around your forearms. So from here, you're gonna take a slight bend in the knees, send the inner thighs back, then lengthen your tailbone down as you straighten your legs, scooping pubic bone up to belly button. Imagine there's that block on your chest, lift your sternum up, and then lift your arms parallel to the floor. Push out into the strap a little bit, and think of wrapping your shoulder blades onto your back, front ribs into your back body. Nice job. Now start to lightly push out into the strap as you reach your fingers up and overhead, lengthen your tailbone down, scoop pubic bone in, and front ribs come back. Maybe the arms are alongside your ears. Maybe they're not, but you're seeing if you can root down through the feet and lengthen the tailbone down, lightly hug your block. Awesome sauce. And then exhale, come forward. And then gently release. Bye-bye strap. And then we'll move on. So from here, hands will come to heart center. Again, re-engage the activation of the legs. So you're hugging into your block. Tailbone lengthens down. Pubic bone pulls up, belly pulls in, front ribs pull back. Now from here, reach your arms up and overhead, seeing if you can imagine that there's still that block on your sternum, lifting your sternum up, but pulling your front ribs in and back, tailbone lengthening down. Awesome sauce. Grab your right wrist, inhale, reach up, and then exhale, happy little side bend towards the left. But you're trying to keep the front ribs in and back. And breathe just into your right ribs as fast as you can. Nice job. Inhale up through center. And then exhale, you'll switch sides. So grab your left wrist, hug the front ribs back, lengthen the tailbone down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, little happy side bend towards the right. Notice if that right shoulder can wrap under, tailbone continues to lengthen down. Inhale, come up. And exhale, hands through heart center. Now, depending upon how close you are to a wall, you might want to move a little bit away from the wall just for this next thing. Okay, so hands come to hips, stand at, well, mostly mountain pose, and then draw your shoulder blades onto your back, body part reaches up. Exhale, hinge at your hips, drawing your head down towards the floor. From here, release your hands down to the floor and then bend your knees. Pull your heart forward as though you're one of those, alpine skiers, and then draw the shoulder blades onto the back as you broaden the collarbones in the front, and you reach from the occipital lobe, so the back of the skull forward. From here, reach your hands back behind you, and then start to squeeze your block a little bit more, send your knees forward a little bit more, your hips and your heels back. Now, pinky fingers spiral to the floor, and notice how the shoulder blades come onto your back. Keep hugging your block, and then start to reach the arms out to the right and to the left, and then hopefully over your head without hitting something or a wall. Awesome sauce. Now, reach out through your pinky fingers. Push up through your sternum into that imaginary block. Hug your block in between your thighs, and then curl your tailbone down. Reach up through the pinky fingers, maybe lift the sternum. Keep hugging front ribs into back body. Nice job. One more breath cycle here. And then exhale, fold forward at your hips. Happy Uttanasana after all of that. Nice work. All right, mindfully remove block between thighs. If you're off your mat a little bit, reposition yourself, and then bend both of your knees. Step your left foot long and back, and you might need to step your right foot forward just a bit. So you're in a long, long, low lunge. From here, let's lift up through that inner left thigh. See if you can send it up to the sky. Squeeze and tone your left butt cheek, and then push down into your right foot and hug the outer right hip back. Take 2 more breath cycles here, imagining that you're lengthening your inner knees, inner thighs apart from each other, descending the pelvis to the floor, but lifting up through that inner left thigh. And then notice if you're breathing and see if you can breathe. Awesome. Gently lower your back knee to the floor. Wiggle walk your right foot out to the right. And another great opportune moment for your blocks to come underneath your hands if it feels like your arms in relationship to the floor is a little far away. And then from here, once you're here, you'll start to turn your right toes out just a little bit. So maybe about 2 inches. So your toes are maybe pointing to the upper corner of the mat. And then you might stay there. You might start to roll to the pinky toe edge of your right foot. And you want to keep pulling your right toes up to your right knee. And you're just breathing wherever you happen to experience sensation in your outer right hip. Being mindful that your left thigh is not dumping to the floor, but is staying lifted and high. And we're breathing, and we're breathing, and we're breathing. Awesome. Gently replant your right foot if it came up, and then you're going to shift your weight back. Maybe keep that right foot wide, maybe wiggle walk it back to the center. Now this is totally up to you. So I like to have the top of my right foot on the floor. It just gives me a very fun sensation across the front of my right shin. You might say, Jessica, that's crazy. That doesn't feel good. And if that's the case for you, no worries. You'll flex through the right foot and you'll pull the toes up towards your knee. And instead the sensation moves to the back of your legs. So you choose whichever one is working for you. And you'll just take 3 to 4 breaths here. You might try playing with the other one and see how that goes for a few breath cycles. And then when you're balanced, you'll shift your weight forward, replant your blocks or replace them at the top of your mat, lift the back thigh up and away from the floor, and step yourself back to downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And again, when we're in down dog, we want to make sure that our inner armpits stay lifted, our triceps wrap around. So we're not dumping into our shoulders, but instead we're finding this crazy long engagement in the front of our body to find length and stability in the back of our body. Nice job. All right, inhale, gaze to the top of your space. As you exhale, bend your knees, empty your belly, travel your feet to your hands. And then we'll just go ahead and try all that on the other side. So you'll bend your knees a lot, little alpine skiers getting ready to take off. Step your right foot long and back, and you might need to step your left foot forward so it's in between your hands. Opportune moment to place your hands on blocks or keep them on the floor, framing your front foot. Now, lift up through your inner right thigh. Lengthen your tailbone back. Squeeze your right butt cheek. Squeeze the quadriceps on the front of the right leg. Reach back through the right heel as you push down into the left foot. Hug the outer left hip back. Hug the outer right hip in. And then pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. Send your inner knees apart. Da, 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 da. I think I said in another video that I start to sing when things become a little challenging. So clearly you can see wherever you're at this moment. Maybe you're singing internally too. All right. Go ahead and lower your right knee down. From here, you might bring your hands back to those blocks as you wiggle walk your left foot slightly to the left. So our left foot is outside of our left hip socket, and then you might turn your left toes out a little bit so they point to the upper left corner of your mat. And then you might stay right there, hands under blocks, chest high and proud, or you might start to pull the toes up towards your left knee and start to spin, or rather roll, to the outside edge of your left pinky toe. And depending upon your hips, one side has more mobility potentially than the other. Our hips are not symmetrical, even though we have two of them and we think that they might be or should be, but they're their own unique entities. So just see what's going on for you. Okay, we got 2 more breath cycles here. Nice job. Gently roll the foot back to the floor, and then you might just shift your weight back and noticing that if one side it feels better to have that left foot slightly out to the left, or you might want to have it a little bit more in alignment with the left hip socket. You might want the left toes pulling back towards your left knee, and you'll feel that more on the back of the leg, or sole of the foot planted onto the floor, and you'll feel that more on the front of the shin. And you'll just notice and pause and breathe, and notice and pause and breathe. And maybe you switch halfway through to try and experiment with what the other one feels like. Nice work. Shift your weight forward, replant your blocks at the top of your mat, plant your palms on the mat, lift up through that back thigh and your leg thing, and then step your left foot back to downward facing dog. Awesome sauce. Now, once you're in down dog, keep lifting up through the inner armpits. Wrap the triceps, send the inner thighs back, and then curl your tailbone to your heels to the floor. Great. Shift your weight forward, Phalabhasana plank pose, and then you're going to pause. Lower your knees to the mat, lower your torso to the mat. Great. When you get down, go ahead and move the blocks just for a bit, or anything else that might be immediately in your way for this next bit. From here, hands will come to the back of your head, interlacing your fingertips. Keep your legs pretty parallel, but you'll lift your right leg up. Make sure the leg stays straight. Hug all the muscles around the bone, reach the right leg back, and then plant the top of the foot onto the floor. Do the same thing on the left side, left leg lifts up. Keep it straight. Hug the muscles to the bone, reach the tailbone back, reach the big toe back, and put the foot onto the floor. Great. Now, press into the tops of both of your feet. Notice how you can pull the low belly in by lengthening the tailbone back. Great. Now, from here, you're going to start to pull at the occipital bones on your head. So your thumbs will lightly pull your head forward, and they'll go forward, and then they'll start to come up. Now, as they come forward and start to come up, keep lengthening your tailbone back. Now, start to reach back through your toes, and they'll start to lift off the floor. Keep wrapping your outer shoulders forward, the occipital bone forward, the tailbone back, the toes back. Low belly will naturally draw in as the tailbone goes back. And you'll lift your chest as high as you want by reaching out in opposition to come up, tailbone, tailbone, big toes, occipital bones, shoulders and elbows. Nice job. Gently lower down. Plant your hands alongside your lowest ribs. Tuck your toes under. Yogi's choice, you can either come up through tabletop or you can press up through plank and meet back in downward facing dog. And then you'll just take 3 breaths here. Long breaths, checking in with those shoulders, checking with your hips, noticing how your legs are feeling at this moment in time. Okay. Walk your feet a little bit closer towards each other, so a little closer to your midline. Inhale, reach your right foot back, right heel back, and then right heel up. Keep drawing the top of your right shin bone forward as you push out through your, left shin bone forward as you push up through your right big toe. From here, bend your knee. Open and stack the right hip on top of the left hip, but keep drawing your left shin bone forward and lift up through both armpits as that right heel crosses behind you and maybe starts to reach towards your left shoulder. Nice work. Gently come back through center, gaze to your hand, step your right foot outside of your right hand. Pause here. Now you're back in a low lunge, but this time it's a little wider. Now push down through your front foot. Hug your outer right hip back. Lift up through your inner left thigh. Curl your tailbone back as you squeeze your left glute. Awesome sauce. Now we'll take a moment to breathe here, sending the inner knees apart, pulling your heart and sternum forward. Great. Shift your weight forward enough to spin the sole of your back foot to the floor. So you might have to actually step it in, depending upon how much mobility you have. And this would be a great moment for you to bring one of your blocks to the inside edge of your right foot. Awesome sauce. So from here, you're gonna start to, this sounds weird, but your right butt cheek is gonna go straight back. Your left outer hip feels like it's gonna come forward. Awesome sauce. From there, push from your right sit bone into your right big toe. It feels like a fun line of energy goes through the medial side of the leg, so that's the inside edge. And then push down through the right hand. As you push down through the right hand, the right shoulder comes to stack over the wrist. The left shoulder can start to stack over the right shoulder, and the rotation happens in the rib cage towards the left. Awesome sauce. So you'll notice here that your left hip is coming forward just a little bit to make space. And we'll see if we can keep that space as we close our front ribs in and reach up through our top arm. Uttita Trikonasana. Nice work. Go ahead and gaze towards the floor. Lower your left hand, pivot to the ball of your back foot and say bye-bye to block. Now, once you're back into that low lunge, you'll shift your weight forward just enough to find a bit of momentum to step yourself back. And we'll try all that on the other side. So first things first, make sure armpits are lifting. Wrap through your triceps, push your shoulders into your hands, lift your hips high, inner thighs back, then curl your tailbone. And once the tailbone's curling down, root into the heels. Awesome sauce. Inhale, reach back through your left heel to reach it up towards the sky. Top of right shin bone keeps coming towards your face. And that lift of the inner armpits helps you find stability here in Ekapada Adho Mukha Svanasana. Don't know why this is called one-legged dog when I have 3 things down, but you know that's a side note. Bend your left knee, stack your left hip on top of the right, keep having the right shin bone come forward, keep lifting through your inner right armpit, and breathe. On your next in-breath, gaze to your hands. Quietly square the hips to step that left foot outside of your left hand. Hooray. Both hands are inside your left foot. And then pause, push down to the left foot, draw the outer left hip back, lift up through the inner right thigh, hug the outer right glute, lengthen back through the right heel as you send your inner right knee back, inner left knee forward, pull your heart and sternum forward, and pause here, and I guess a wide-legged lunge, maybe it's a modification of lizard, who knows. Awesome sauce. Great. Now you'll shift your weight forward enough to spin the sole of your right foot to the floor. Happy moment to plant a block on the inside edge of your left foot. And then from here, you're gonna pause. Make sure that right knee stays bent, and then start to straighten, left knee stays bent, and start to straighten your left leg by drawing your outer left hip back and pushing from your left sit bone to your left big toe, the outer right hip will come forward. And the more that you can then push down into your left hand, the left shoulder will stack over the wrist, so you might need to adjust your block. The right shoulder will stack on the left shoulder. The right hip continues to come forward. The outer left hip continues to go back. Press into your back pinky toe, and maybe you can reach the right arm up as you take your gaze up from Theta Trikonasana, triangle pose. And here you want to make sure you're pressing out into both feet while simultaneously hugging in. Nice work. Gaze to the floor, sweep the right hand down to the floor, pivot to the ball of the right foot, remove that block, and step back, downward facing dog, dog. Okay. And from here, shift your weight forward to Phalangasana, plank pose, and you're going to pause, push down through the hands, lift up through the inner thighs, curl your tailbone back, and isometrically pull your sternum forward. Shift your weight forward and slowly lower down, shoulder blades onto the back, head stays lifted, heart stays open. Hooray. Okay. Now, once you find yourself all the way onto your abdomen, hands will once again come back to the back of your head. Maybe try opposite interlace of the fingers at the webbing, just for kicks and giggles. And then we'll try all this on the other side, or, well, not the other side, you have two of these and whatever, we've been here before. Lift your left leg up, keep the left leg straight, hug all the muscles around the left leg, curl your tailbone back to your left foot, and then put it down. Same thing on the other side, lift your right leg up, keep the leg straight, hug all the muscles around the bone. Lengthen the tailbone back and then reach back through the foot and put the foot onto the floor. Great. Now keep lengthening the tailbone back as the legs stay active, and then start to reach your feet back so that they will hover a bit off the floor. Then pull your occipital bone forward, the outer shoulder blades wrap, your elbows come forward, tailbone lengthens back. Awesome. And maybe you can lift and hover your head a few inches off the floor. And then we'll stay here for about 5 of these. So you'll inhale, open your legs as wide as your mat. Exhale, lengthen the tailbone back and hug the legs together. And you might notice that when you inhale, you can lift the chest a little higher. And then as you exhale, see if you can maintain that. And you've got 3 more. Keep lengthening tailbone back, outer shoulders wrap, sternum reaches forward. Last one. Nice job. Gently release your hands alongside your lowest ribs and lower your head all the way down, lower your legs all the way down. Great, so yogi's choice. Once again, you can go ahead and tuck your toes under and come up through plank or come up through hands and knees. And you'll meet yourself back in downward facing dog. Now, when you're in this down dog, just take 3 breaths to stabilize yourself. So that was probably a lot. Those little adductor engagements, not always so much fun, but supposedly they're very good for us. This next few things may not be so much fun either, but they're also probably pretty good for us. Can't say for sure because nothing's ever black or white, so we'll find out. Go ahead and bend both of your knees. You might walk your feet forward about, I don't know, an inch or 2. And then you're going to slide your right thigh over your left, like you're sitting in a chair in a cute dress. And then you might double wrap that right foot behind the back of your left ankle. So your legs are doing Garudasana, and it's like, wow, what is going on here? And you'll just pause and you breathe. And then you'll gently unwind and replant that right foot next to the left. And then same thing on the other side. The left thigh will slip up and over the right, and maybe the left toes will hook behind. And you'll keep lifting through your inner armpits as you push the floor away from your shoulders. Nice job. Gently release both feet back to downward facing dog. Ease to your hands, and then step or float top of mat. Now, once you get to the top of your mat, you'll take a moment to pause there and breathe. And you might then just notice what your hamstrings are feeling like now. And then the next invitation would be to bring both of your blocks on the highest setting underneath your shoulders. Now I say this even if you're pretty flexible, it's just helpful to have that extra space. You can choose to do whatever the heck you want to. Okay. From here, you're going to bend your knees a lot, like we're back to being those alpine skiers or maybe a swimmer at the docks. Blocks. And then you'll send your tailbone back, reach your heart and sternum forward. Shift your weight forward enough to slip your right leg over the left leg, and maybe double wrap the legs. So we're sitting your butts back for eagle pose, and you might need to adjust your blocks depending upon how your balance is. Push down into your big toe, hug your outer shin bones together, and then start to press through that left foot to lift a little bit more of your torso away from your thigh. You might then bring your hands to heart center, and you might hang out here happy as a clam, or you might wrap your right arm underneath your left and grab opposite shoulder, or double wrap the arms, maybe continuing to bring the spine to vertical as you bend forward into that left knee. Nice work, guys. Very gently push through the left leg, unwind the right, and stand for a one-legged Tadasana with eagle arms. Great. From here, you're going to bend your left knee a little bit to start to kick your right foot back, hinge at your hips, and draw your elbows forward parallel to the floor, kicking your right foot back parallel to the floor. And you'll take a moment to pause and breathe. Top of left shin bone goes forward, inner right thigh lifts up. On your next exhale, gently unwind your hands to your blocks, reach back through your right big toe, and then bend your right knee. Plant your right foot next to your left, and fold forward at your hips. And notice what that feels like. Oh my gosh, that was a lot. Hello, Virabhadrasana 3. Okay, we're gonna try all that on the other side. So, hands come to blocks. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bend your knees, little alpine skier. Slide your left leg up and over, maybe tucking the left toes behind the back of the right calf. Now make sure here your four corners of your right foot are evenly rooted. So you're pushing the big toe mound, pinky toe mound, inner and outer edge of your heel evenly. Adjust the blocks if you need to. Start to shift your weight back so your right knee bends more. And then push, or rather lift your torso away from your thigh, and maybe hover your hands at heart center. You might stay here as the right knee continues to bend forward, or you might wrap your left arm underneath your right, hugging opposite elbow, or maybe double wrapping your arms for Garudasana arms. Or you'll just pause and you'll breathe. You have one more breath cycle here. Keep pushing your big toe, hugging that outer right hip back. Next in breath, unwind just the left leg, stand tall, one-legged Tadasana with Garudasana arms. And then as you're ready, start to bend the right knee, hinge forward at the hips, kick your left leg back, drawing your left leg and both elbows parallel to the floor. Pause, right top of shin comes forward, lift up through that inner left thigh, push back to that left big toe. Gently unwind your arms, pause here, pressing back through your big toe. And then this time you'll take a giant step back to a low lunge, lower your hands to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. From here, shift your weight forward, little plank pose, shift forward through plank, lower through chaturanga. Now, once you're on your abdomen, if there are any things immediately to your right and left, you'll want to move those. And then you'll cactus your arms out to the right and to the left. And start by looking at your left hand. Walk your left hand forward, so meaning towards the top of your space, and a little bit to the left. Now, turn your gaze to your right hand, slide your right hand where your elbow was, and come to the tips of your fingertips like Cousin It or Cousin Thing from the Addams Family. Pause. Push down into your right hand, and you might start to roll just the right shoulder towards the left, and that may be enough of a chest stretch for you. Meaning it's opening the front of the chest on the right side, and if that's the case, by all means, stay there. You might then push down into the back hand, so that's the left hand, the left elbow, push down into the right hand, and start to roll a little bit more towards your left. Now, as you do that, you might walk that right hand closer to your torso. That right knee can be bent or it can be straight, but you're paying attention to now the sensation, most notably, probably, on your left chest. And so you'll pause, and you'll breathe. And you want to make sure that you're not, or you want to be mindful of being aware of where this sensation is getting to be too much. If it's too much, come out. If it's a good, gentle stretch, Great, stay there for another breath cycle. Great, and then make your way back onto your belly. Go ahead and cactus the arms out and notice what you notice. And then we'll try that on the other side. So look at your right hand, walk your right hand a little up and then a little over to the right. Gaze towards your left hand. Slide your left hand back to where your elbow was. Come to the tips of your fingers like cousin it or cousin thing. And then you might just start to push there. Notice that the left shoulder can come towards the right. And that might be enough of a sensation on both the left as well as the right chest. Or you might push down into the back hand, so the right hand, the right elbow, push down to the left hand and start to roll more of your chest towards the right. You might walk that left hand closer to your torso. Then you might find that on the side, if you lift your head and isometrically pull your right chest towards your left thumb, oh man, that gives you a different sensation. Great. And then from here, gently unwind, come back onto your belly. And this is the last time that we'll be doing this. Well, not ever, but for today. So once you're back on your belly, interlace your hands at the back of your head. Press into the tops of your feet, lengthen your tailbone back, and keep your legs straight. Now, isometrically pull your sternum forward, the occipital bones forward, shoulders wrap around the elbows, reach forward. Your tailbone lengthens back, your big toes reach back, your toes reach up and away from the floor. The whole leg reaches up and away from the floor. Awesome stuff. So now go ahead and flex the toes. So the toes pull back towards your knees. Inhale here, and exhale, bend the knees, little hamstring curls. So we got 5 of these. Inhale, reach back through the legs, point through the toes. Exhale, flex the feet and draw the heels in. And you're trying as you do these to breathe. That's priority number 1. And also continue to lengthen the tailbone back to keep the low back long. Let's take one more set. Okay, the next time your heels flex up, we'll pause here. Imagine there's a block between your thighs. Lengthen your tailbone back, reach your sternum up, kick your feet up. And lower it down. Oh my gosh, that was a lot. Okay, bring an ear to the mat. Then you might shimmy, shimmy, shimmy your hips. Or you might not, it's totally up to you. And then you'll lift your head and switch whichever ear is on the mat. And then you'll bring your head back through center. Plant your hands alongside your lowest ribs and then press yourself up to a tabletop position. And then from here, you'll put your bum on the floor and you'll cross your ankles, or rather cross your shins so your feet are underneath your opposite knee. We're just going to take a gentle twist to unwind. So go ahead and bring your right hand in front of you, left hand behind, lift up through your spine, and you're just going to take a small rotation towards your left. And you might yawn and breathe and stretch here. That right hand might crawl to the outside edge of your left knee, but we're not trying to force anything. We're instead allowing the body to reveal the depth it wishes to go to. And then gently you'll unwind and come back through center. And then you'll notice which shin's in front, switch shins. We'll take that to the other side. So left hand forward, right hand back, lift up through your spine, and just take a gentle rotation towards your right. And you'll notice where you can soften the right shoulder away from the right ear. Maybe left hand will come to the outside edge of left knee, but you're just pausing. Front ribs drawing into the back body so that you feel that sensation, or rather that release of the twist across the back of the body. One more breath cycle here. And gently you unwind. We'll go ahead and make our way onto our backs now. And for this one, make sure your blanket roll is somewhere easily accessible, and you might grab one or both of your blocks. And when you find yourself onto your back, the first thing that you'll do is you'll plant that block between your inner upper thighs. And again, you're planting it on whatever position feels best to you. And then your hands will come alongside your rib cage hips. And from here, draw the shoulder blades onto your back. And you can turn the palms up or turn the palms down. It just depends on whatever feels best to you. And then pushing into that block, or rather squeezing into that block, notice if you can roll the inner thighs back, so it feels like your back arches a little bit. And then curl the tailbone under just a smidge until it feels like the low belly engages. From here, push down through the feet, hug into your block, keep curling the tailbone under lightly. And then remember what we did with the strap, so reach up through your pinky fingers. Imagine you're pushing out into an imaginary strap. Draw weight from your pelvis forward into your knees and back, or rather up towards your palate. And then from the palate down into the floor. So palate being palate of the mouth. And you're just going to pause here. You're going to breathe. And very gently, you'll lower your pelvis back down to the floor. You'll widen your feet outside of your hips. Remove your block and allow your knees to knock in. Now from here, you might stay right here and just wrap your arms around yourself like they were in Garudasana, stage 1, and just take a few moments to pause and breathe here. And while you're staying here, some of you, or you rather, may choose to stay right here. Or you might find that as you're settling into the shape, there's some other things that energetically feel like they want to move. And if that's a case for you, listen to the intuition of your body and do what feels best to you. So maybe a few more gentle twists might feel good here. You have both of these blocks. You might put one underneath your pelvis and lift into a supported bridge. You might do any number of things. So allow yourself to choose to listen to and follow your own intuition above all else. And the great thing about this being a video, well, there are two, is one, you can pause and come back and join us when you're ready. And two, nobody can see what you're doing, so you can do whatever works best for you. Okay. When you're ready to come into your final resting pose, you've got options. Option number 1 is to take that blanket roll and just put it underneath your knees and hang out here in Shavasana. Option number 2 is to take Supta Baddha Konasana with the soles of the feet together, knees open and splayed like a book, and using the blocks to support the outer thighs. You choose which option works best for you today, or something else if neither one of those works for you today. And then we'll just take a moment to settle in before we continue on with our day. So as you come into this final shape, begin taking a quick scan of the body, noticing where there's any unnecessary tension or tightness or holding. And see if you can allow yourself to just soften a bit and surrender and let that be supported by the weight, stability of the floor. And then every place that you continue to feel a little bit of tightness or tension, allow the inhalation to go to that part of the body softly, sweetly, The exhale to send a little loving energy, maybe letting go of anything it doesn't need at the bottom of that exhale. We'll go ahead and rest for a few more minutes and I'll let you know when it's time to get up. Return your attention to your breath. As you take your breath, return to your breath, take the next few moments to slowly check in, to notice what you notice. As you're checking in, notice if there's a part of you that wishes to stay and linger in the shape for a few more moments. And if so, stay here as long as you'd like. If movement is calling you, allow yourself to begin to explore that movement that's calling you. Stretching and wiggling and yawning in any way that feels really nice to you. Once you feel complete in that exploration, you'll bring yourself to stillness. And gently make your way to one of your sides. Press down into your top hand to roll your chest more to the floor. Release the bottom hand and press yourself to a tall seat. Go ahead and take the opportunity to elevate your bum on a block or a blanket. And you'll just sit in whatever way is comfortable for you. And before we go off into the rest of our world, rest of our life, go ahead and bring your right hand to your heart space and stack your left hand on top. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe here. Take a moment to thank yourself for being here with your practice. Thank you for joining me for today. The light within me honors and salutes the light within you. Namaste.